What would you do if a patient was brought to you in the ER in the middle of the night and they begged you to not let them fall asleep, and the one time you did, everything changed? This is Scared with Jess, and today's story is about a nursing student who says that she had a patient come to her in the middle of the night, terrified that there was something still inside her, and eventually the staff knew exactly what she meant. I've never posted this anywhere, and I know how it sounds, and I know what it does to people's perception of you when you work in healthcare and say something like this out loud. This was my last year of nursing school. Overnight clinicals in an ER attached to a county hospital. They were busy and underfunded, the kind of place where strange things come in all the time and you learn fast not to overreact because there's always an explanation. Drugs, or maybe a head injury, psych, fear, something you can pin it to. And the girl came in around 3 a.m. A state trooper had found her walking barefoot on the shoulder of a highway. She was maybe 19, wearing a dirty t-shirt and shorts, wet to the knees, feet torn up from gravel, dried blood at the corner of her mouth, and one side of her face was swollen. The trooper said she'd been halfway into the road and wouldn't stop repeating, "Don't let me sleep." We assumed stimulant use or psychosis. She was crying but focused, and that part stayed with me. She wasn't confused about where she was. She knew the date, she knew her name, she answered all of our basic questions. She just kept grabbing at whoever got close enough and saying, "Please don't let me go under. It's still in me." The attending thought head injury plus possible intoxication. We started the usual workup. Did anyone hurt you? Are you on anything? Seizure history, medical history, all of it. She kept saying she'd fallen asleep at a friend's apartment after a party and woke up in the bathroom with blood in her mouth. She said she could hear it talking when she closed her eyes. One thing, not voices, just one specific thing. And she was begging us to not sedate her. The nurse I was shadowing told her very gently that nobody was trying to hurt her and that she needed to calm down so we could help her. The girl looked right at her and said, "It wants you to think I'm tired." In an ER at 3 a.m., that's still not the strangest thing you hear. People noted it and moved on. Then she seized. Her body locked hard for a few seconds, her jaw clenched and her hands curled in with her eyes open. She came out of it gasping and started crying again. The attending made the call to sedate her lightly so they could get scans and keep her from hurting herself. Right before they gave it, she grabbed my wrist. Mine specifically, not the nurses, not the doctors, mine. And she said, "If I sleep, don't stand near my mouth." They sedated her anyway. For maybe 30 seconds, she got calmer. Then every monitor in the room started throwing bad readings at once. Heart rate jumping, the oxygen numbers dropping and correcting, and leads going haywire. The nurse started checking connections. Then the girl's jaw started working. That's the only way I can describe it. It was moving deliberately, like she was chewing something, but there was nothing in her mouth. The doctor leaned in to check her airway and told her to open wider. So she did. There was blood everywhere. She had bitten through the side of her own tongue. A significant amount of damage. One of the nurses swore out loud. In the state she was in, with the sedative already in her system, she should not have had anywhere near the force to do that. I've seen tongue injuries from seizures, and this was different, and everybody in that room knew it. They got suction in, more staff came in, and the room flipped from weird to control chaos instantly. And then she opened her eyes. I was against the wall by then because there were too many people at the bedside, but I could still see her face. Blood on her teeth, her chin, and her gown, and she looked past the doctor directly at one of the nurses and smiled. Then in a voice that had no business coming out of her body, she said the full first and middle and last name of the nurse's dead son. The nurse stumbled backward into the counter behind her and started crying. The doctor kept working, he kept talking, trying to hold the room together, but something shifted in there. Whatever people had believed about what was happening 60 seconds before that, it was different now. The girl started laughing. Blood in her mouth, and she was laughing. Then in her own voice, quiet and weak, she said, "See?" After that, she crashed hard. Not cardiac, but serious enough that it became a different situation. ICU consult, faster scans, attending from upstairs. I got sent into the hall with another student because we were in the way. I stood out there and listened to pieces of what was happening inside. At one point, I heard someone say, "Where did all this blood come from?" At another point, I heard the nurse from before telling someone flatly that she was not going back in that room. The girl made it through the night. I confirmed that the next day, but nobody wanted to talk about what happened after she moved. Psych was mentioned, transfer was mentioned, that was as far as anyone would go. The nurse whose son's name she said called out for the rest of the week. The thing that got me most wasn't any of the moments I just described. It was right before the shift change. I was in the med room with one of the nurses when the call light from that room went off over the intercom. The girl had already been moved. The room was empty and had been for over an hour. The nurse walked to the monitor that showed which room was calling, looked at it, and said very quietly, "No." Nobody answered that light for a long time. I finished the rotation, I finished school, I still work in healthcare, but there are things from training that don't wear off no matter how many years go by, and that girl is one of them. I kept thinking about what she said before the sedative, and I kept thinking that the worst thing we did that night was not listen to her the first time. Anyway, good luck sleeping tonight.
A woman standing by her apartment window accidentally captured something deeply disturbing on camera, and once people saw the footage online, they started calling it one of the creepiest videos ever recorded. It started late at night when it noticed movement near a narrow alley across the street. At first she thought it was just a person walking in the dark, but when she zoomed in with her camera, her stomach dropped. Stepping slowly out of the shadows was a tall black figure. With impossibly long legs, its body looked unnaturally thin and stretched almost too tall to fit inside the alley. People online began comparing it to the terrifying Japanese legend of the 8-foot woman, but this thing looked even darker and far more twisted. The woman instantly started panicking and backed away from the window, but before she could even process what she was seeing, she noticed something even worse. Directly across from her building, inside the darkness, the street. A massive shadow had started appearing, and it was getting longer every second, like something was slowly standing up and watching her. From below, the video cuts off right before she starts screaming, and trust me, part 2 gets even crazier. Follow me for the next part.
Growing up, my mama used to tell me you got to be careful because you can invite the evil in, right? And if you're not spiritual, you really don't understand what that means, because inviting the evil in sometimes is not even being verbal with it. It's where you're at, what you're doing, and what you accept, right? Because you're inviting these things into your life. So quick story time of something that happened to me when I was probably about 17 years old, and it made me it changed the way that I thought for the rest of my life when it came to going over people's houses, having people in my spaces and shit like that, because energy is very transferable, right? So as a kid, I realized that I had a gift not to only see what people had going on and feel energy, but I could see things. I could see things. I could feel things, and I was always very hyper aware of these things, and it's a gift that I've had my entire life, right? So when I'm about 17, one of my homegirls invite me over her house. I get over there, I'm already feeling a little off. I'm feeling like it's just a weird vibe. It's weird energy in the home as soon as I walk in the home. But me being me, 17 years old, not really fully understanding my gift, I'm trying to push it off to the side and say, you know what? I don't know what that feeling is, but right now I'm not feeling the feeling that I'm feeling, right? So I get over there, her mom's cooking dinner, whatever the case may be. We chilling in her room, right? We start talking this, that, and the third, right? Come to find out, they're part of the occult, right? At that time, I really didn't know what the occult was. I just brushed it off like, all right. You know what I'm saying? So we eat. As soon as we get done eating, my stomach start hurting. So I'm like, I feel sick. Like, I don't feel good. Like, I feel sick. So the girl was like, you could just stay here. You can go lay down in my bed. See, my mama didn't play that spending the night shit. So no, I gotta go to the house. Like, I don't feel good. So they kept trying to get me to stay. So something told me to call my mama. See, my mama was one of them motherfuckers. Like, she was about all of that shit. And she also had a gift. And she also knew. So as soon as my mama heard my voice on the phone, she said, get your ass up out of there. Something ain't right. I said, yes, ma'am. I got my ass up out of there. Something right. I'm driving down one of the black roads in South Carolina on the way home. I'm about 25 minutes from the house. All the roads dark. It ain't no street lights. Ain't none of that. It's just your car light against the motherfucking woods and darkness. That's it. Right. I'm driving down the road. Right. Something ran across the front of my car. I thought it was a deer, so I stopped real quick, couldn't see what it was. Right? So I sat there for a second looking around. I'm like, I don't know what that was. As I start going again, I look over to my left and something is running beside my motherfucking car. It looked like a midget running beside my car. Keep in mind, I'm going about 45 at this point because I'm accelerating, so I'm going at a steady speed. This motherfucking shit is running beside my car. Next thing, I call my mama on the phone, and this is before they had Bluetooth on the phone. So I'm holding my motherfucking phone up to my ear, talking to my mama or whatever. My mama praying on the phone as I'm driving. She said, "Them folks is evil." She said, "Them folks was trying to take something from you. They evil. They evil. They evil." Keep in mind, I didn't go to school with this girl. She went to a school that was, about two cities over from where we lived at. But I knew her because we played basketball together and shit like that. So anywho, I end up getting home. And when I got home, my mama was praying after, she was praying. I looked over, what was running beside my car was gone. I get to the crib, I pull up, my mama standing on the porch waiting on me to come in the house. Soon as I walk up on the porch, she got the anointing oil, she going in, she praying, she going in, she praying, she going in, she praying. And I just remember she making a spiritual bath for me, and she put like some herbs, and she put some Florida water, and she put a whole bunch of shit in the spiritual bath for me, and she told me to get in the bath, right? She gave me some salt, she told me to lick the salt, I got in the bath, she praying over me. And keep in mind, I'm naked, I'm in the bathtub, my mama doing all of this over me. That night, after I get out of the tub, I went to my bed and I laid down. And I've always suffered from sleep paralysis. So when I laid down, I had a dream. I had a dream that a man was coming to get me with no face. And the man reached inside of my head and took out a light in my head. This is the dream that I'm having, right? So I remember me having this dream and me trying to wake up from this dream, and I couldn't move. When I woke up in my room, the man was standing over me in my room where I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do nothing. So I just remember me praying myself out of this trance. As soon as I woke up, I went to my mama's room and told her what happened. My mama woke up, she started burning some incense. She burned some frankincense and myrrh, and she lit some candles, and she began to pray. And as she is praying, I remember like a heaviness lifted off of me. And my mama sit there and she looked me dead in my face and she said, "Don't you remember when I tell you that you invite the evil in without even knowing you invited the evil in?" And I said, "Ma, I ain't do nothing. I ain't say nothing." She said, "You ate them people food. You invited that evil in. They wanted something that you had, and they was going to do anything in their power to get it. So y'all need to be careful when y'all going around these folks and y'all eating from everybody and putting yourself in situations because you invite the evil in without you even realizing you inviting the evil in, if you pick it up what I'm putting down."
If you don't think demons are real, y'all might want to stick around for this story. So I'm going to tell you guys a personal testimony of mine about the first time I ever got delivered before, and the first encounter I ever really had with demonic entities, demonic presences, and why deliverance is so necessary in the body of Christ. So this was around 2019. I was trying to find God, but I was still living in an unrepentant lifestyle. Like, I was still engaging in sexual sin, I was cussing, I was partying, I was drinking, I was doing a whole bunch of things that, would invite demonic forces into my life. Now, at this current time, I was in college and I was about to go to nursing school. So I was finishing up a couple of prereqs and I was in a class. It was one of the last classes that I needed to get into the program. So I remember sitting in this class and there was like a group of us in the class and a bunch of us were all applying to the nursing program. And something that we all had to take was a TEAS exam. Now with this exam, like for some people it was really hard, for some people it wasn't. And I'm not gonna lie, for me it was not that hard. And I took the study materials and I passed the test, and I remember coming to class and saying like, "Yeah, I passed, guys. This is the book I used, blase, blase." So there was a specific girl in my class who at the time, even the first day I met her, like if you guys watch my video about me having the gift of discernment, as soon as I saw her, I got that uncanny feeling of like, kind of be cautious with this girl, but like, I didn't really have any tangible evidence of anything she did to me other than just that feeling to be cautious with her, right? And she asked me, "Hey, like, you passed the exam, right?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I passed the test. Like, this is the study book I use. Like, I got it from Amazon if you want it, like, whatever." And she's like, "Oh, okay." I will also say this too. Prior to this exchange, she did mention that she had been trying to take this TEAS exam for several years and she just was not able to pass it. And she was at her wits' end, getting like desperate to pass the exam. Okay, that's really important. So after she says, oh, okay, I say, you know, if you want, like, I mean, since I'm done taking the test, you can have my book. Like, it's not really a big deal. Like, I don't really see anything of it. And she's like, yeah, actually, I'm going to need exactly your book. I'm going to need your book and your book only. So I was like, okay, like I said, I'll bring you my book. You can have it. I'll bring it tomorrow though. I'm not going to bring it today. And she's like, you better bring the book. Like, I'm so serious. You need to bring your book to me like immediately. And I'm still kind of like, okay, like I'll bring the book for you. But I just thought the whole exchange was kind of off-putting. And then after that, I didn't really think anything of it. So I go home that night and I tell my mom, like, oh yeah, mom, like this girl in my class, like she was being kind of weird. Like I told her I was going to give her my book so she can study. And she like was kind of like weird and like insistent that I bring the book to her and like made it a big deal and like thought it was kind of weird, but I'll still probably give her the book anyways. But at the same time, like I just thought that was super weird. My mom, my sister were all kind of like laughing it off. We're like, yeah, that's so weird. Like, you know, whatever, but at least you passed your exam type deal, right? So that night I go to bed, it's a normal night. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, my mom comes running in my room and she's like, did you give that girl your book? And I'm like, no, I didn't give her my book. Why? And my mom's like, do not under any circumstances give that girl your book. I just had the weirdest dream. I don't want to tell you what I saw, but I just want to say to you, like, it's weird. So I'm kind of like, okay, mom, like you're being dramatic. Like I have a Haitian mom and you know, Haitian parents, they just always having dreams. So I didn't really think too much of it. I said, okay, mom, whatever. You know, I didn't give her the girl the book. And then, you know, I took the book and I put it in my bag to give it to her. But for whatever reason, I just could not give her the book. So this whole exchange happened like on a Monday and this was Tuesday, now the new day. And I just remember that morning passed. I didn't see the girl in the class and then I didn't end up giving her the book. But I started to feel very weird and I couldn't explain why. Just for context, back in that time, I had never experienced depression, anxiety, or anything of that sort. So all of a sudden, that Tuesday, I just started feeling extremely just heavy. It's like my mind would not silence and I felt very, very just a lot of thoughts were racing through my head, but like stuff that I genuinely did not want to think about and I could not stop the thoughts from forming. I also started to notice I felt like myself in an extreme mental fog and it almost felt like unnatural, like I couldn't control it. And I started also getting these extremely blasphemous thoughts, these really weird thoughts, like just things that I'm like, this is not how I feel, but why do I keep hearing this stuff? And just to not make it like, so that TikTok doesn't take this video down, like I was getting thoughts for me to like myself. I was getting thoughts about God is not real, you're ugly, you need to die, nobody wants you, just a whole bunch of stuff that I never thought about before that incident. Now this continued for days, guys. I mean, this happened on a Tuesday. By like Wednesday, Thursday, my friends started getting very concerned. Like they were almost like, what's going on with you? Like, this is not like you. Like you're not responding. You're not talking. I just felt so low and so drained and the thoughts were racing through my mind. I felt like I wanted to isolate myself. I was trying to read my Bible and I kept getting blasphemous thoughts while I'm reading the Bible about this is fake. This is not real. God is not real. You're going to go to hell and all of these things. And I just could not shake the feeling. So like I said, prior to this point, I had never really knew about demons. I didn't really know about deliverance. I just knew that I didn't feel right and I felt funny. And every time someone mentioned anything to me about God, I immediately felt myself getting into like a rage. So since I lived with my mom at the time, she started to notice like my behavior was off and she's like, what is wrong? And she kept saying like, I'm going to pray for you. I don't know what's wrong, but I need to pray for you. And it actually got so bad that one of my best friends called my mom and said like, hey, I know you don't understand this, but your daughter needs to come to church this Friday because we need to pray for her because this is not normal. Now at the time, my best friend was already actively walking in deliverance. She was already familiar with it. They already knew the signs of when somebody was getting oppressed by demonic entities. But I also was kind of skeptical and I didn't believe that this was a thing. I just thought that I was going through something. So Friday comes and my friend's like, please, 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 if you do nothing else, I need you to come to church. And if you feel the urge to really not come, you need to come even more. So that Friday comes, I feel so low energy. I feel so drained. I feel so overcome with the desire to not go to church because I just could not. For whatever reason, church seemed like everything I did not want to go to. And that was just so not in my character. I ended up showing up to church 30 minutes late, which if you know me, I'm really not a late person. And as soon as I got in church, I just felt angry. Like an extreme amount of anger came over me. I felt tense. I felt worried. I felt like I need to get out of here. And I just remember sitting down in church and staring at the wall and feeling so upset. And all of a sudden, the more that people started praying, the more that people started talking, the more I started feeling like this uncontrollable urge to just like, I need to get out of here. And as soon as I was getting ready to collect my things to leave, one of the church members came over to me and she said, I need to pray for you. And the Holy Spirit told me to come up here and be gentle when I spoke to you. I just remember this lady came to me and said, did you try to give someone a book this week? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, that girl used that book to put witchcraft on you. And she said, and if you desire prayer today, like we will break the demonic ties right now in the name of Jesus. And I was just like, yeah. And I remember they started praying for me and I just started weeping and crying and feeling heat all over my body and feeling weak at the same time. And then also feeling like just this presence rise up out of me. And also I could feel it leave. And I just remember after the entire deliverance session was over, just feeling like so relieved. And ever since that day, I really went back into the Bible and really tapped in and saw like, yeah, Jesus spent primarily 95% of his ministry casting out demons, healing the sick. And it opened my eyes to the fact that, wow, like we live in a world that is not flesh and blood, but it is purely spiritual, like God said. And guys, when I tell you after that, God has opened my eyes to so many more things. Like I can literally see demons manifest now in people's face. And it's just, y'all got to stay prayed up out here.
If you're easily scared, don't watch this at night. Personal spooky story time, and we're gonna call this one That Wasn't My Brother. When I was about 18 years old, I had gone out and I had a very strict dad growing up. If you're Mexican or Hispanic, you know, my curfew was at midnight. Thankfully, my sister would cover for me and she would hide pajamas in the restroom. That way, if I got home late, I would go straight to the restroom, I would change, and if he caught me coming home late, I was already in my pajamas and I'd be like, what do you mean I was in the restroom? So this specific night, I get home past my curfew, I go straight to the restroom, I use the restroom, wash my face, brush my teeth, put on my pajamas. The way that our house is set up is a long hallway, restroom, my bedroom, my brother's bedroom. But as you're walking to the bedrooms, the living room is right here. So as I'm walking to my bedroom, the house is dark as hell. Our front door has glass and the porch light kind of gleams in. So I'm walking to my bedroom and I happen to look in the living room, right in front of our front door, I see a little boy. And he's standing there. But what's crazy is the way that he's standing in this perfect spot, the light cuts off right here. So I can see from here down, but I can't see his face. His face is literally black. Like I can't see any features. I can't see nothing. I'm not exactly sure what he's wearing, but it looks like overalls or something like that. My first instinct isn't, oh my God, that's a ghost. My instinct is, what the hell is my brother doing awake right now? So I stand there and I'm calling for my brother. I'm literally like, Eric. My brother's name is Eric. So I'm whispering and I'm like, Eric. Trying to make sure that my parents don't hear me because it's about 3 a.m. and my brother is just standing there. And I'm like, God. Eric! Nothing. No movement. Nothing. So I'm literally standing there for what feels like forever, waiting for my brother to cut his shit out and fucking go lay down because I'm about to get my ass kicked. And he's just standing there. So now my wheels are turning and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And when I tell you this is the most I've ever been scared, like I was shook, I was shitting myself. I decide, okay, I'm gonna go to my brother's room. Turn on my flashlight. I'm looking, and my brother is asleep in his room. I was so scared. I didn't even go back to my room. Like, I was freaking out. I've talked about my mom's house being haunted before. What's crazy is that it's inexplainable because my dad built their house. I'd understand if it was like an older house or something like that, but it was a new house. Like, I have not done any research on the land, if there used to be something there, if something happened there. I have not done any research, but I have seen and heard so many things inside that house. It is fucking haunted. It wasn't a mimic, because now that I think about it, this little boy was definitely younger than my brother, and we've seen him many times. He loves to play peekaboo. We have 2 living rooms in my parents' house, and my mom was always in the smaller living room in her recliner, and a wall separates both living rooms with a half moon, and she says that she'd be there in the morning and this is the wall and she could see the little boy like peeking, and when my mom would go and look, he'd kind of like, or if this is the wall, he'd kind of like, you know, but at least it's a friendly ghost. If you guys have any spooky stories that you'd like to share with me, please send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye.